Hello and welcome to Preparing in the Time of Corona, being prepared for the coronavirus and what's coming next, and how pandemics affect the real estate investing business. I'm Phil Grove, real estate investor, and for tonight's presentation, urban prepper. This presentation is presented by Texas REIAs, the largest network of investors and real estate investor associations in Texas, and the Canis Major Incubator, the premier crowdfunding platform for Texans investing with Texans in Texas. So let's go ahead and get started. Little disclaimer, this subject matter is for educational purposes only. We are not doctors, epidemiologists, etc. You should always have your medical advice from medical experts, financial advice from financial planners, and legal advice from lawyers. So let's get started. A little background on me. I am a real estate investor. I'm also a public speaker, but I'm also an urban prepper. I made my fortunes in real estate investing and not in prepping, but prepping is a lifetime and long time hobby of mine. I've studied it for years. I've developed some very practical techniques that can help anybody be prepared for their future. So, what are we going to discuss in this presentation? We're going to start with general prepping, preparing yourself and your family for natural and man-made disasters. And then we're going to move on to real estate investor prepping, including talking about what might the coronavirus mean to real estate investors and how to be prepared for what's about to happen next. All right. Prepping. Let's talk about this. Prepping is not Doomsday preppers. You know, you watch that TV show Doomsday Preppers, and people think that prepping means being prepared for a zombie apocalypse. Prepping books generally discuss being prepared for anything or being prepared for specific major disasters, which makes it a little bit overwhelming. The reality is prepping has many levels, from simply being prepared for no power or no groceries for a few days, all the way up to being prepared for anything like the zombie apocalypse. What's unique about my approach is that it's very simple for people that are not professional preppers. We're going to talk about that. So, first thing you need to know about being prepared is there's different levels of preparation because there's different levels of disasters. Generally, we look at 5 different levels: a moderate local disaster, major local disaster, moderate national disaster, major national disaster, and of course, a global disaster. And there's examples of each one of these different things. You know, a moderate local disaster might be a storm or a tornado, maybe a flood, or maybe even an earthquake, civil unrest. Generally, you can lose your utilities for days, maybe even weeks, and you need to be prepared to deal with that for anywhere from 3 to 14 days. A major localized disaster is something that's the same thing, only lasting maybe weeks to even months. This is when FEMA gets called in. This could be something like an EMP, a tsunami, a major flood, maybe a terrorist attack, civil war, local disturbance, maybe a volcano, or even a nuclear or chemical disaster. In this kind of a situation, you may be losing your utilities and resources for weeks to even months, cleared out grocery shelves, looting. You need to be prepared for a longer time, right? 14 to 90 days, and maybe even possibly bugging out, having to change locations. Then we get to level 3, national disaster, moderate national disaster. This could be an economic collapse, like a depression, severe food or gas shortages, either natural or man-made. You may lose your utilities randomly. There may be shortages of food and supplies, maybe possibly looting, maybe even starving. This is where you need to be prepared for maybe 90 days of food and shelter and have up to 3 years of economic viability, you know, to basically weather the storm of economic downturns. And then we get to level 4. This is a major national disaster, which could also be an EMP or nuclear attack, war, widespread terrorist attack, maybe a biological attack, smallpox, dirty bombs, a pandemic, there we go, internet crash, complete economic breakdown. This is where you could lose utilities for maybe even months on end. Could be major loss of life, widespread looting, maybe some starvation, This is where you need to have 6 months of food and shelter and maybe up to 5 years of economic viability. And then finally, there's the global disaster, which could be, of course, also a global nuclear war, solar flare, polar shift, a major asteroid, major pandemic, or even major economic global collapse. And of course, at that level, we're talking about major loss of life, looting, starvation, maybe even the zombie apocalypse. And you need to be prepared to go it alone, not rely on any other resources other than your own for maybe up to a year. Where are we now? Well, I'd probably call it kind of a level 3. A pandemic is something that could hit at a very high level. It is a global disaster. But the pandemic we're dealing with is not the worst that it could possibly be. So we kind of have a global thing going on that is not as bad as it could possibly be. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So what do you need to prepare? Well, for each level of disaster, you need specific items. I believe everybody, for example, should be prepared at least a level 1. Be prepared for anything lasting anywhere from 3 to 14 days. So you need to focus first on getting level 1 prepared, right? And then once you're level 1 prepared and you understand how to be prepared at level 1, you might want to move on to level 2 or level 3, etc. Personally, I'm around a level 3 or 4. I don't have a plan for living off the land that you would need if you really wanted to survive at a level 5. But I also think it's pretty unlikely that that's ever going to be occurring. And of course, any preparation at all is going to put you in a position where you're literally 1,000 times more prepared than virtually everybody else. I had a joke once. A guy told me there were these 2 guys camping out in the woods, and they're in a tent, and all of a sudden a bear starts breaking into their tent. And one of them's trying to get away, and the other one's putting on his sneakers. And the guy who's trying to run out the tent, to get away from the bear is saying, why are you putting on your sneakers? You can't outrun a bear. And he says back to his friend, I don't need to outrun a bear. I just need to outrun you. And that's the thing about being prepared, right? It doesn't actually take much to be a whole lot better prepared than everybody else. And we're going to talk about how you can put yourself and your family in a better position. All right, good news, bad news. Good news is it's never too late to prepare for what's next, and you always need to be preparing for what's about to happen next. We're going to talk about that. Just about anything you need, by the way, you can buy on Amazon even today. Bad news, if you don't prepare in advance, life is just much harder. Long lines, delays, and increased risk because you may not be able to get all of the things that you really need. My advice, always focus on what's next. And we're going to talk about that, the next phase, the future. All right, so what is next? Preparing for what's next. Look, real estate. Let's go back to real estate. Real estate always goes through the same 4 cycles again and again and again. We'll put them in any order you want, but typically, you got a good real estate market. So what do people do? They build new real estate. They build more houses. They build more buildings and apartment buildings until you have more houses and supply than people need. And when supply exceeds demand, then you get into a recession. Basically, demand does not meet up with supply and prices start to go down. Right? And then after prices start to go down, there's people that lose money. There's people that go out of business and they stop building houses and new apartment buildings until eventually there's not any more supply and demand exceeds supply. So prices start going up again and you get into that recovery phase. And then after you're recovered, well, people are making money. So what do? They want to make even more money. They go into expansion mode, start building even more houses and apartment buildings until, once again, you get oversupply. So you always go through those 4 cycles. Now, what do you want to do in terms of prepping? You always want to be prepared for what's next. No matter which cycle you're in, you need to look at the next cycle and see, okay, how would I position myself and prepare myself for that? When you're in an oversupply mode, what do you want to do? You don't want to be building more. You don't want to be over leveraged than you can take, right? You have to be understanding that if the market goes away, you can't be caught with your pants down. Now let's talk about life. Life actually pretty much goes through these same 4 phases. You're living your life, and at some point you're living large. And then phase 2, a disaster happens, right? Something like a pandemic pops up out of nowhere, right? And now you're in survival mode. But we know that all of these things eventually pass, and you pass into recovery mode. You then start to rebuild, get back that life you have until you're living large once again, right? And just like with real estate, you always need to be preparing for what's next. So where are we right now? Well, we're obviously in the middle of a disaster, probably pretty early into a disaster. So what do we need to be doing? We need to work on this, right? We need to be surviving the disaster and preparing as best we can for the next steps of the disaster. And we need to be looking towards recovery because we know that's going to happen, and we need to position ourselves for exactly that. All right, Maslow's hierarchy of level of needs. If you took a psychiatry class in college, you probably studied this. As people prepare themselves, they take care of their most basic needs first. Your lowest and most basic needs are food, water, warmth, shelter, personal survival, right? After you've made sure that you are going to live, then you can take care of your friends and family. Obviously, if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. Once you've got your friends and family and yourself all taken care of, you start to work towards your business and your wealth and your prestige. And then maybe you get to the level of self-actualization. We're actually helping humanity. Obviously, right now, where are we? We're in a survival mode, physically, literally, and we need to be very focused on that, staying healthy and being prepared, right, to keep ourselves healthy and to get ourselves to that next stage. So let's talk about staying healthy and some of the basics for personal preparation. First thing you need to realize and understand are priorities, the rules of 3. Okay, this is kind of a cool little way of thinking about prepping. You can go 3 minutes without air. I can actually hold my breath for 3 minutes. You can go 3 hours without shelter, right? Heat. You can go up to 3 days without water, and you can go up to 3 weeks without food. Thus, obviously, breathing and staying warm and having water is way more important than food. People think, when you're prepping, they're needing to stockpile food. Food's actually one of the least important things that you need to prep with. I mean, the truth is that in natural disasters, people rarely starve to death. I mean, things have to go bad for a long time for people to actually be starving to death. Sometimes when somebody gets stuck somewhere, they die because of lack of water. That's much more common than starving. And obviously, if you're drowning or don't have shelter, those things can kill you very, very quickly. So what do you need to prepare? There's 12 different categories of items that you need to collect for your preparation. Water, food, security, including self-defense, fuel, which today means everything from gas to batteries to keep everything going, light, to be able to see at night, heat, warmth, first aid, and clothing, gear, sanitation, including hygiene supplies, bartering items, essentials, and what I call X-factor items. So these are the 12 different categories, and in each one of these categories, you can prepare at different levels. For a very simple preparation, I recommend that everybody be prepared at least a level 1. Excuse me, at least a level 1, which means having a basic emergency or bug out kit. And I have a little picture here of my bug out kit, my little emergency bug out kit. And I'm going to show you in a minute a video going through that bug out kit to explain all the different components of it. But there's items in this little bug out kit for all of the different type of preparation you need to be prepared for. So this is a little list of the different items in my own emergency kit, but rather than just go through them all, with my slide here, I'm going to show you a short video kind of actually doing a walkthrough of them. Hey everybody, Phil Grove here, and I'm going to show you what it looks like to put together a bug out kit or an emergency kit. And I've got a very portable one right here, and I'm going to walk you through the ingredients. Remember, there are 11 different things that you put into an emergency kit, and I've got all of them represented in this very, very small little bug out or emergency kit. For my bug out kit, I use actually a lunch box, which I find to be very portable. It's got a little top on here. You can just wrap this around, and then you can open it up. It's actually insulated and waterproof, so it'll protect all the ingredients. So what do we have inside here? Well, we have a lot of different things, and I'm going to go through these. These are not in any particular order, and other than how they're packed. First, we've got a little food in here, and these are actually emergency rations, the same kind of rations you put on lifeboats because they last for years, and there's actually 3,600 calories worth of food in here, and that's enough to keep somebody alive for a few days. So we got plenty of food here. Food is, of course, not the biggest concern you have when you're in an emergency situation. We've got a little survival kit. I'm going to come back and show you this a little bit later. We've got a flashlight in here. This is a very solid metal flashlight, and it's USB chargeable, so you can recharge this flashlight. It's got very high lumen capability. You got a little white gold tissues that can also be used, obviously, as toilet paper. We've got the all-important hand sanitizer. We're going to keep our hands, nice and clean. And then we've also got some eye protection. In the case of protecting yourself against flus or viruses, you always want to have some eye protection. This is mostly to just keep you from touching your eyes. So these are very cool little, very, very portable glasses. They just wrap around your head. These are clear. You can also get them, that are tinted for sunglasses. But the clear ones allow you to see, obviously, even at night, and they're super, super portable. So we got a couple of those in here. We got a USB charger. Remember, we want to be able to charge our phone and, of course, our flashlight when we're away. We've got some safety stuff in here, including a knife. This is also a tool that's being used for lots of different things. So we've got an ability to cut things and protect ourselves with a knife. Got a little pepper spray in here, also for personal safety and protection. And we've got some waterproof matches. Matches are for providing heat. And these are, of course, waterproof, which means they get wet and they still work. Got our All Faithful first aid kit. This is kind of a high-tech, very portable first aid kit. Ultralight, watertight. It basically has all the medical stuff you would want, including some painkillers and aspirins and things like that to keep you kind of in medical good condition for a couple of days. So that's what that's all about. And then we also have a USB battery. This is a great big battery. It's, I think, 20,000 milliamps. This is for recharging your flashlight, recharging your phone. There's a flashlight in this thing, so it's also a flashlight itself, so a secondary flashlight. And the cool thing about this battery is it actually has a solar cell on the top, and it comes with actually a little solar cell panel, so you can hook these things together, and you can literally set this battery out in the sun, and you can actually recharge your battery, which of course you can recharge your phone and flashlight and other rechargeables with, so we've got power even if for some reason the power goes out. For water, we have a life straw. This is kind of a cool invention. This is literally a straw with a water filter, a very high-tech water filter built in. You could literally drink pond or stream water with this thing and have basically all the water that you need. We've got a couple of Mylar blankets. These are very portable blankets. They're made out of Mylar plastic, which means they're big. Even though they pack up very, very small, they can help keep you warm and free from the elements. We've got a little poncho here also that can be turned into a rainproof poncho or a little tent in a makeshift situation. And also for warmth, we've got some little warmers, hand warmers. These are things you just expose to the air. They keep you warm in the event that you are out in the elements. A couple of other things we've got in the bag. We got a little cash. Always good to have cash on hand, so I like to keep $300 in cash in there. We've got some little face masks. Face masks, these are not super high-tech face masks, but they will keep you from touching your face, which is the most important thing to do. When you're concerned about flu or virus, don't touch your face. And we've also got some little gloves in here. So we got some gloves to protect our hands. We got protection for their eyes, the hands, and of course the mouth. The little instruction panels, pamphlets in here. These are little potassium iodine tablets, very portable. This could go into the med kit, but these are just things you take if you're ever exposed to nuclear fallout, believe it or not. You take these little pills and it protects your thyroid, which is what you get damaged in the event that you get exposed to radioactive fallout. There's some little power cords for the charger to be able to charge, again, your phone, your battery, or your flashlight. So that's pretty much everything in the kit. There's a few other little things on the side of this kit. I've got a little roll-up water bottle. This is a full 1-liter water bottle, but it all rolls up, so it's super portable. It doesn't weigh anything, obviously, when it's all rolled up. We've got in the back of this thing a garbage bag. Garbage bags are actually really handy for all sorts of things, obviously holding garbage, but you can also make a poncho out of this thing or even a tent out of this thing if you really had to. So that's also in there. And then one last thing, I call this the X Factor element. I think I've got one in here. I always like to keep a little gold coin in my bag as well. Gold is the universal currency. Right now it's going for over $1,600 an ounce, so that's some extra money. You can use this for bartering, and basically if there's anything you're missing in your kit, you could probably buy it with one of these. So that's why this is what we call our X Factor. So this, my friends, is everything you need in a bug out kit. Obviously you can get more elaborate than this, but this is a pretty small and compact bug out kit. In a separate video, I'll show you what's in the little mini bug out kit as well. Thanks. Hey, I did want to show you one little element, and this is the mini survival kit that I put within my emergency or bug out kit. And this is even smaller than the bigger bug out kit, but it includes several very small safety items that are useful. And this is so portable, you can put it just in your emergency kit or by itself. So we got a little saw. This is actually what's called a pull saw. You can wrap this around a branch and pull and cut a branch in two. You've got a little fishing kit, believe it or not. You can actually throw this in the water, and in a jam you could catch a fish with it. Got paracord. They say paracord is one of the most valuable things you want. You can do so many things with cord. It holds a tremendous amount of weight. We've got a little compass in there. That's fun. We've got a very miniature first aid kit. This is really just a big adhesive bandage in case we need something. We've got some duct tape. Believe it or not, duct tape is universal for fixing just about anything. A little sanitary napkin for the ladies. We've got some salt and pepper and sugar. This is obviously to spice up our food if we need to. We've got a little bit of a hand swab, a little alcohol pad. We've got some, what are these things? Water purification tablets. So you put that in your water and it'll purify your water. Got a rubber band in there. Some, this is what is this? Vaseline. Vaseline, believe it or not, can be used to burn. It actually helps you start fires and lots of other, needs for antiseptic needs. We've got actually some bouillon cubes. Put those in your water and it'll make a little chicken broth, so that's cool. Here's something for entertainment, I guess, when you're, off there alone. We got a little safety light. Believe it or not, this is a very tiny little battery-operated, very miniature flashlight. We've got some wire in here and another rubber band, good for a lot of different things. A little sewing kit, again, for mending things. We've got a little, also for your medical needs, a little scalpel, believe it or not. We've got a pencil and some waterproof paper in here. We've got a little water cup, believe it or not, to hold our water with our water purification. We've got a little whistle here. Yeah, whistle for personal safety as well. Here's some waterproof paper to go along with that pencil. We've got some aluminum foil and a very small mylar blanket as well. There's some safety pins in here. and some very, very small little things. You break these, and these are little emergency lights, very, very miniature. So a super, super tiny, compact little safety kit. I keep one of these inside of my bug out kit. It's just a whole bunch of very small miniature portable items that we include in the bug out kit. Thanks. So, being prepared. Obviously, an emergency or bug out kit is pretty basic. It's really kind of a level 1 preparation. But you need to be even more prepared, or you can be, because for all 12 different categories, you can prepare at different levels. For example, category 1, water. You can have a simple water filter in a water bottle for level 1, and this will keep you going for at least a few days. But if you want to be prepared for level 2 or 3, you need additional items like bottles of water, water filters, more complicated filters, and water storage. I've actually developed a pretty comprehensive spreadsheet for each of these 12 different categories that talks about all the different items you would need to be prepared at level 1, 2, 3, 4, even all the way up to level 5. Now, when you're preparing for a specific disaster, then you need to think about the items for that disaster and maybe get more of certain types of items. So obviously for a pandemic, you want to be able to keep from getting infected. That's pretty important, which really means protecting your mouth, nose, and eyes, protecting your hands, and then protecting your body. At level 1, you need a basic face mask, maybe some eye protection. Level 2, maybe a more comprehensive mask like an N95 mask. N99 at level 3, maybe even a gas mask at level 4. For level 5, you might even need more than that, right? Now, keep in mind, even if you're just basically prepared for level 1, you're still, once again, doing better than 99% of the population. I don't specifically prepare for specific things like pandemics, right? I didn't see it coming, like most people didn't. So I wasn't specifically prepared, but I was generally prepared. For example, when you look at face masks, level 1, basic, level 2, N95, level 3, N99, level 4, gas masks. I actually have a small number of all of these different types of masks. I didn't personally prepare for a pandemic. Had I known a pandemic was coming, I probably would have gotten lots and lots of these different things. But I didn't see it coming, like nobody did. But I do have, the good news, a small quantity of each one of these different types of masks. I'm using N99 masks, which are, washable, long-term reusable masks. The 95 masks are generally disposable masks. They're good, but they're really not meant to be worn for a long time. So bad news is, it's hard, although not impossible, to get these items once a disaster has occurred. All right, so how I organize, again, I've actually built a spreadsheet with all 12 categories broken down by level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can start by buying all of the items you need for a level 1 preparation, right? And then move on to level 2 and maybe level 3 or more at your leisure. And you can make adjustments to your plan for specific events. If you're, a level 1 preparer and you see a pandemic coming at you, you might want to go get some of those N95 masks and pick up some of that some of that level 2 stuff. All right, continued. Researching lots of books on the topic, I've actually assembled a pretty comprehensive plan, including the top 100 things that are hard to get when you have an emergency. I personally have most of the level 1, 2, and 3 items for all 12 categories, and I even have some X factor stuff, and we'll talk about that in a minute. If you'd like to get a copy of my full plan, I'd be happy to share it with you. Just come to one of our Real Estate Investor Association meetings. You go to texasreas.com, find out, and you'd be coming to one of our meetings, find out a little bit about real estate, and I'd be happy to share my plan with you as well. X factor, let's talk about X factor. X factor are items that give you a little bit of an edge. Maybe you have a special skill, a special resource, or even bartering items. So for example, my X factor is gold coins. I collect gold coins, solid 1 ounce, 999.9 pure gold 1 ounce coins. And I use these in case of emergency. Great for bartering. We talked about that with the bug out kit. If you just can't find something, well, you know what? For a gold coin, you can buy a lot for a gold coin. Ultimate hedge over inflation in various scenarios where you're worried about economic collapse or maybe the crashing of the dollar. Where does everybody gold? Hard assets, gold. Gold becomes worth a lot if there's an economic crash. It's a universal currency and it's the ultimate insurance policy. So that is my X factor. And I kind of think of gold as being able to replace anything else that's missing in my list. All right, part 2, how pandemics affect the real estate investing business. Let's get into that. Pandemics and other disasters. Look, there's always disasters, right? And if you look at all the different disasters we've had over the last 100 years or so, they've all come and they've all gone. 1914, we had World War I. 1929, we had the Great Depression. 1934, we had World War II. The gas shortages of the 70s, the market crash of 87. 2001, we had both 9/11 and the dot-com crash. 2008, I remember well, the subprime mortgage crash. And of course, here we are in 2020 dealing with coronavirus. It's another disaster. We've had many disasters before, probably many that are ultimately going to be worse than coronavirus. It too will pass. And the thing about pandemics is kind of interesting is that people don't even remember the pandemics. The Spanish flu killed 50 million people, which was a big part of the world population way back then, in between World War I and World War II. And nobody even remembers it. They don't even talk about it. They talk about the world wars, right? But they don't talk about, the Spanish flu that killed even more people than the world wars. If you take a look at the regular flu, influenza, kills between 300,000 and 650,000 people a year. Just in the United States, it kills anywhere from $12,000 to $60,000 a year. Well, the coronavirus started in China. They got hit the hardest and the first, and they had less than 4,000 people die. So the huge impact of coronavirus in China killed less people than even a very light flu season in the USA. And then China's got a lot more people than the USA. So in other words, the coronavirus from a health perspective may never be even as bad in terms of human casualties as a regular flu. In 2009, we actually had another pandemic. It was called a pandemic called swine flu, and it killed 289,500 people. And you know what? Nobody even remembers it. We had over 12,000 people that were basically died due to swine flu, and nobody even remembers it. I don't know if coronavirus will kill that many Americans. Hopefully it won't, but it's very likely that it won't. So in other words, yes, we've had pandemics before, although most people don't remember them, and this one too will pass. So what's unique about coronavirus? Well, the most thing that's unique is it's now, right? It's the latest and greatest thing, right? Well, not so great, but it's the latest, certainly. And when you have a pandemic, it's almost like having a random serial killer that's just roaming around. And, we've had serial killers before, and everybody is scared to death. I lived in New York way back when they had Son of Sam, a serial killer killing people. And, the odds of getting killed by Son and Sam were about 1,000,000 to 1. But yet everybody was afraid to go out at night. Your odds of dying in the worst place on earth of coronavirus are still about 10,000 to 1. Even if this gets 10 times worse, it would be 1,000 to 1. Even if it gets 100 times worse, and I can't even imagine that happening anywhere, but let's say it did, your odds are still, right, over 100 to 1 in your favor. The other thing about coronavirus, it's a tweener. What is a tweener? Well, it is worse than the flu. A lot of people said, oh, it's just the flu. Well, no, it is worse than the flu. It's got a higher mortality rate. It's probably a little more contagious. But it's not as bad as SARS and Ebola and AIDS that have much, much higher fatality rates. So this thing kind of came in under the radar, right? And that's how we got attacked. We weren't fully geared up to deal with it because it doesn't kill most of the people that get it. but it still kills more people than we were expecting. And because of that, it is what we call a surge pandemic. What does that mean? It's just got just the perfect profile to overwhelm the hospitals. When people start getting sick, they get sick at a rate where the hospitals get overwhelmed. And honestly, there's probably nothing more terrifying than seeing people dying on the floors in hospitals. And that's just such a terrifying sight. We will do anything to prevent that, right? Even if that means shutting down the economy. And that's essentially the other unique aspect of coronavirus to cure it, to keep the surge from happening. We literally are shutting off the economy, and that will have its own economic ramifications, like a depression or a recession. We're not quite sure what the ultimate ramifications of that will be. I guess it depends on how much and how long. So, how will coronavirus affect real estate investing? Well, the truth is nobody knows exactly at this point, and that's really the most disruptive thing, is all the unknowns. I will say almost on a daily basis, the situation is changing. If you stay tuned at Texas REIA's Facebook page, go to Texas Space REIA's. There's no space in the thing, but join us on the Facebook page. We have regular updates every Tuesday night and every Thursday night with what's going on. The lenders are forgiving mortgage payments. They're not doing evictions, right? Certain things are open, certain things are not open. There's a new stimulus package coming through that has various benefits that will affect real estate in many different ways. So yes, it's a moving target. It will pass. They're spending $2 trillion in the current stimulus package, and the economy is $12 trillion. So that's 2 months worth of stimulus being spent by the government. And they'll probably even do more if they need to do more. But don't ever forget, disruptions create opportunities. There were huge disruptions create huge opportunities. In 2008, the lenders melted down. Subprime lending came to an end. The lenders started to go broke, and all these loans started to get called due. And what did we do? We developed a strategy for that, something called the AM strategy, where we just took all the loans from the people who had loans and couldn't afford them and didn't want them anymore. And we reassigned their mortgages, their loans, to people who desperately wanted loans, but couldn't get them anymore because the banks weren't doing any lending. And when people were going broke, we were making a killing. 2008 was the best time ever to buy and hold real estate. Man, you could get deals back then. And the deals that I got back then that I still own, if I have one regret, I wish I'd held more. Right, that I got in 2008. I shouldn't have flipped them. Should have held even more of them. I held some of them, but not as many as I could have. Look for inflection points, that moment when the worst is over. Now, you can't guess at what that is. That's gambling. But when you start to see that the inflection point, when we seem to be past the worst of it, then it's time to be prepared to move on new opportunities that are to come. So get your powder ready and keep your powder dry. Be ready to execute on the huge opportunities that are coming. There will be, mark my words, people that say that 2020 was the greatest opportunity of a lifetime, and it probably will be. So you need to be prepared to take advantage of what may be the greatest opportunity in your lifetime. Okay, you want to get prepared with real estate? Here's some ideas. Get some training. Learn some new skills. If you're interested in real estate, you can go and get a free personalized blueprint. My wife and I have created a little system where you fill out a form, and based on the information you put into the form, it talks about your financial situations and your financial goals, and it spits out a customized real estate investor blueprint, basically a suggested plan for how real estate can help you accomplish your goals. Real estate can do a lot of different things: commercial, residential, active, passive. We do all of those things. It can generate passive income. It can replace your income. It can double the money that you have already. It can make you a multimillionaire, right? And there's many things you can do. And if you go to www.REIA, it's Real Estate Investor Association, that's what a REIA is, REIAblueprint.com. Just fill out the little form and you'll get your own customized blueprint. Tap into a network of resources. If you want to be prepared to take advantage of opportunities and see where the opportunities are, join your local real estate investor association. If you have even the very slightest interest in real estate, the very first thing to do is to go join your local real estate investor association. Texas REIAs is the largest network of real estate investor associations in Texas. So join the Texas REIAs Facebook group. It's free. And then figure out which meeting you want to go to and go to a local meeting. And for the time being, all the meetings are online, so go attend some of the meetings online. And maybe you want to attend a full-blown training workshop. The Texas Real Estate Investing Workshop is Texans teaching Texans how to invest in Texas using strategies that work here. Real estate is local, laws are local, neighborhoods are local, power teams are local, contractors and title companies and realtors and everything about real estate is local. If you want to get your local power team and tap into the local money and the local resources and the local wholesale opportunities, you join your local real estate investor association, right? We talked about that, and then go get some training from local experts. So normally we actually sell a training class for $1,000. But for the time being, to support the network, what we're doing is we're actually doing 3-day workshops for free, live and online through the use of modern technology. You can learn how to become a real estate investor, join the network, and participate and get access to opportunities, money, and resources, all for free. How cool is that? And this is just during the coronavirus, kind of work at home crisis that we're going through. So to get some free tickets, go ahead to the REIABlueprint.com, fill out the form, get your blueprint, and then we'll send you a coupon to get some tickets to a workshop if you like to come to a workshop. That's how you get trained, learn how to invest in real estate, and get the network and the opportunity to go with it. So that's it, guys. It's a great time to be prepared, and you should always be prepared for what's next. So this is what's next in real estate. What may be the opportunity of a lifetime. Don't let the opportunity pass you by. Thank you.